"You're right there, pal." And then Garcia comes, "What happened, Nick?" "I don't know, man. I think he bit his lip or something." Right? That is hard.
Do you like that sound?
Very good. Very.
3, 2, 1. We're back. Can I put something to you?
Yeah, go on.
Sometimes in life, you have chocolate rain. A song you were a big fan of, I remember.
Big time.
Sometimes you have chubby rain.
Altered by Tezonde.
And sometimes you have...
When the B-29 came, I was 10. My family lived underground for 3 days. When we came out, the city was gone. Then the heat brought rain. Black rain. You turned the rain black.
That's right. Black Rain. That's what we're talking about today. An underrated gem of a movie. From when?
1989. You want some Hans Zimmer music?
Nothing better that I like than a Japanese instrumental.
The flute, the strings.
Okay. Alright. Black Rain, give us the breakdown on why it's so great. Well, not why it's so great. Just give us the tale of the tape, why don't you?
Michael Douglas's 1989 neo-noir policier. Helmed by Ridley Scott, great director of such marvelous films such as Blade Runner, Alien, Gladiator, and the not so great House of Gucci. Incidentally, the greatest comedy of all time, House of Gucci.
Okay, so Black Rain.
Black Rain.
A cop drama, body cop film,
Correct.
right? But much, much more than that.
So much more than that.
Layered.
By the way, it's 2 buddy cop films in one, if you catch my drift.
Oh, did you mention who the buddy is?
Andy Garcia in part 1 and Ken Takakura in part 2. Oh, yeah.
Masahiro Masimoto.
Yes, and Charlie Vincent.
Very good,
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah,
it is
like,
2.
It's
Correct.
2 buddy cop films in
very
one.
Good,
You
very good,
understand?
very good. I do like it, and I do understand it. Now listen. Many people talk about this film, and we'll get into it, that it's more style over substance.
All right.
I disagree. I think it's style and substance, but the style. And what style?
What style?
It comes to the fore because it's so beautiful. It's so, as you say, there's such a mood to it. There's such an atmosphere to it, you know. And more than just being a police drama, it's sort of like a fish out of water story, but even more than that, you know, cultures coming into conflict, so on and so forth.
Like a cultural deep dive.
Absolutely. And may I say, if you're a fan of Andy Garcia like we are, he is at his peak in this film. He's never looked cooler. He's never sounded cooler. He's never dressed cooler. I mean, he is just firing on all those Garcia cylinders.
Star turn performance.
Absolutely. Well, so let's get down to the plot.
Okay, plot. Michael Douglas's grizzled, kind of weather-beaten detective, Nick Conklin.
Burnt out.
NYPD.
Right.
Playing the burnout with all sorts of nuance and depth and layering.
Set the mold for like burnouts to come.
To some extent. I mean, I almost feel like that everything that we know Bruce Willis to be when playing kind of cops was almost... I don't want to say patented, but almost like, you know, the genesis almost, you know, can be pinpointed to Douglas's performance as Nick Conklin.
Well, and Black Rain. Of that performance is the mullet.
Oh.
What hair. What great 1980s hair, but...
You know, by the way, not just a mullet.
Tell me.
A perm mullet.
Ah.
Okay, now... this is we need to
double threat.
We need to preface the hairstyle,
please,
before we deep dive into this masterpiece. Because,
break it down.
All right, because it must be very, very difficult to pull off true, unprecedented, unfettered, unrivaled badassery, which is what Michael Douglas channels as Nick Conklin in this.
Which in itself is quite unique for this film.
Okay. Anyway. But I'm saying he is proper badass.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, imagine... you know, hair and costume, telling Michael Douglas, look, you're going to play this grizzled detective under investigation by internal affairs.
Yes.
Okay? You're going to be going deep into Osaka underground. Okay? The Osaka underworld. Okay?
Yakuza. Talking about Japanese mafia.
Chasing Yakuza criminals.
Yes.
Right? And we're going to actually style you up with not just a mullet, but a perm as well. Right? Now... that's basically akin to, and we've discussed this on a previous episode, giving Timothy Dalton that very, very odd-looking bouffant, slick-back hairdo in License to Kill.
True.
And asking him to basically own every scene amongst South American gangsters.
Looking slightly ridiculous.
Exactly.
But he manages to pull it off.
So that is a testament to
Absolutely.
great acting and really, really... You know what that is? That's just basically movie stardom in a nutshell.
You know what? If you pull it, you better use it.
You get exactly.
Thank you very much.
Now, Douglas is basically fresh off of, I think, his apex mountain year. Okay, from having done Fatal Attraction and Wall Street the year before,
right?
For which he won the Best Actor Oscar.
Yeah.
Okay. And Fatal Attraction actually nominated for Best Picture. So he's coming into Black Rain kind of at the height of his powers. Okay, Ridley Scott is experiencing a little bit of a lull, having done kind of the film Legend. Do you remember Tom Cruise's kind of forgotten fantasy,
I haven't forgotten.
Thriller,
yes,
Legend in 85.
Yes, okay,
and then Someone to Watch Over Me in 87.
Yeah.
Great film.
Yes.
With one of my favorite forgotten legendary actors, Tom Berenger, aka Big Renge, a sporter of the fruit leather tan glaze.
Yes.
Do you remember that? We
the
discussed
Samsonite.
that. No, not the Samsonite pudding. The
the
fruit leather glaze,
yes,
which you found difficult to pronounce.
I'll put the link in our description if you want to.
Big Renge, great tan.
Watch.
Okay,
yes,
so Douglas is under investigation by Internal Affairs.
Highly underrated episode by us, I must say.
Big time underrated, by the way.
Guys,
very underrated.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, so he's under investigation by IAD.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got alimony payments, the usual stuff that afflicts. And let's go ahead.
I just wanted to interject there.
You may.
Did you mention, since you were talking about Ridley Scott, that it was initially supposed to be directed by Paul Verhoeven, but then Scott came in last minute, and a lot of these kind of characteristics of the movie, the culture of clashes and the mood, that's all Ridley Scott.
Correct.
I think it was just a simple police drama before that.
When Verhoeven was attached to it.
Scott said, we're upping the ante. We're taking this shit to Japan.
And in the words of Prince Andrew, quite rightly.
Quite rightly.
Right? Anyway, so he stumbles across, he's minding his own business at a kind of local Italian restaurant.
Yes.
And talk about that great scene.
Oh, great scene. First of all, you got Garcia with the bib, eating the pasta while standing at the bar, drinking a nice glass of wine. I mean, it makes you just want to hit one of those old Italian gangster restaurants immediately, which we might do straight after this.
Absolutely.
We have to.
And who does he have sitting next to him? Basically, like mobster Abolofia.
Yes, so they're all mixed in with the freaking Italian mafia. You got other lawyers there, crooks there. Everybody's in this one restaurant in New York, right?
It's kind of this confluence of the
good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, the Yakuza and the Cosa Nostra.
Yeah, well, the Yakuza's there to do a deal with the Cosa Nostra.
Okay? And whereupon these two cops are minding their own business, and in comes Sato, the antagonist of the film.
Absolutely.
Okay? Scary as hell. By the way, Demon Eyes.
Great bad guy.
Demon Eyes.
An underrated villain.
And by the way, it was supposed to be Jackie Chan cast in that.
Wow.
But felt that playing a villain would undermine his
fan base.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway, whereupon they stumble upon this brutal, grisly murder where Sato almost decapitates somebody with a knife. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, they get Sato and they take him back to Japan to be extradited, to be charged, to be put in
without fully understanding what exactly the crime was about.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we later find out it's about counterfeit bills.
Sure.
There's a counterfeit war going on.
Yeah.
And
listen, and this is where the movie really starts, when they get to Japan, right?
Yeah.
And I almost see it as like a baby brother to Blade Runner, this film, when they get to Japan, because it's got all those Ridley Scott tropes, the rain, the black rain, the neon, the smoke, the darkness, the light, the technology, all of that kind of stuff, right?
It's true.
I mean, he's obviously fascinated by Japan.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's funny how all these directors who are who have signature, like you said, tropes.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott's really is about dark kind of atmospheric backdrops.
Absolutely.
And you saw it first in Alien.
Neon.
Exactly.
All of that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And always a bit of Japanese influence thrown in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly in Blade Runner,
yeah, absolutely,
like you said,
yeah.
you can see this has like Blade Runner's
well, you know
fingerprints
what?
all
I think
over it.
the problem is that's because of the moment in time these films came out. It was a moment in the 80s and the early 90s where everybody thought that's it. Japan's going to take over the world with the technology they have and the money they're making and all their cars and fridges and hi-fis and computers and everything like that. We make the computers.
We won the peace.
Anyway, so. At that time, it was in everybody's zeitgeist that
Correct.
Japan would
Correct.
be the next big country and America was on its way out. And in a way, this is what this movie is about as well.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at Douglas's old USA hanging on to the, edges of empire and Japan on the rise.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a lot of that kind of referencing, when they're talking with Ken Takakura, his, soon-to-be partner in Japan. There's a lot of that kind of referencing about how since the kind of conclusion of World War II, one country went one way, was kind of very imperialistic, very narrow-minded, and the other country kind of devoted itself to prosperity and innovation and working as a group instead of as a lone wolf, which is essentially a metaphor for what's going on in this film, right? Because
the collective versus the individual.
Exactly.
This is getting a bit too highbrow for our channel. We need to fucking tone this shit down immediately.
Right, okay.
All right, listen. Back to Douglas's hair.
Back to Douglas's hair. Okay, I don't think it's a dye job in this, by the way.
No.
I think he's rocking natural chestnut tones.
Yes.
Okay? But with a mullet perm.
Anyway, they get to
and
Japan.
very, very good aviators. You got to give him credit for the aviators.
Amazing.
I think they're the outdoorsmen.
And they're what's the coat? Does he have a trench coat?
By the way, good stilo in this. Okay, a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. No, a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. Okay, which I like. Okay, a constant Marlboro cigarette in his mouth.
Yes,
okay, which I like.
Yes,
right. And also, these kind of faded, kind of washed out gray jeans with a bit of a shitty flannel shirt, very suited to kind of the
very
role
much
he's playing.
who you were before you became content creator.
But exactly, that's exactly right.
Right.
And sometimes wearing a leather jacket, but sometimes wearing a blazer as well.
Right, yes.
It's kind of like a hybrid. It's almost like a leather coat jacket.
What's amazing
Something
for
that
me...
you wore in the late 90s as well.
Absolutely.
From Dexter Wong. No?
Very good.
The was it?
I don't know. Anyway, listen. Come on.
Sorry, I just wanted to. You wanted to go more.
Stay on the ball here.
Yeah.
Listen, and what's amazing is that.
Okay.
Despite how ridiculous he looks, he still comes across as very cool. And the way to gauge that is that you're he's playing alongside Andy Garcia, who's arguably the king of cool in a lot of ways, but still he's the alpha.
Yes.
Right? He's the alpha in the whole situation. Now listen, they get to Japan. Obviously Douglas, he's confronted with everything and he's clashing with everyone. Garcia, on the other hand, he's absorbing the culture and embracing it and getting along with everyone. And this is really kind of shown with regards to the partner they're teamed up with, Masahiro Masamoto, which we referred to previously.
One of the great actors from Japan.
Tell us a little bit.
No, he's just essentially he's considered one of the the De Niro of Japan.
Right.
And he really, really puts on this kind of earnest I don't know, performance.
Yes,
filled with integrity.
And he's introverted and he's very Japanese, obviously up against Douglas's boisterous, loud, obnoxious character.
Yeah, and I feel he really kind of channels. You might say you could almost say it's an obvious cliche, but he really channels all the kind of the Japanese sensibilities you would come to expect from an American film. Yes.
And listen, ultimately, what makes this film so great is that it's all believable.
Yeah.
You buy into it all.
Yeah.
Right? We are hooked. And obviously, if you have a penchant for Garcia, Douglas, and Masahiro Matsumoto, then all the better.
Okay, now, but this is the thing which is also that we love so much about it as well is that, like we said, Zimmer's score as well, which Hans Zimmer, who's the preeminent music composer.
Listen, you know what? I got to say something about it. Yes, he's basically every big movie has a Hans Zimmer score, or now this new Swedish guy who's I don't know if you know what his name is. We should know what his name is, but he's the now second in line to be the next soundtrack score king. Anyway, regardless, every big film is Zimmer or Goldsmith.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But what's amazing with Zimmer is that he wasn't yet the kind of celebrate. Well, he was celebrated, but he wasn't the kind of preeminent award winner at that time.
Okay, yeah.
But he was pumping out in this period. Actually, I was looking at it. the score for Rain Man, Black Rain, and Days of Thunder, right? Almost in 3 successive years, okay? 3 of my favorite scores of all time, which I didn't even know were Zimmer until actually quite recently.
But no, that my point was like Zimmer's basically does everybody's scores.
I
so
mean,
like
he's so good.
Like how special is it? I mean, it's just
he's so good. Okay, and that kind
pick
of like,
a score.
That kind of that kind of like haunting.
Yes.
Kind of.
And by the way,
backdrop. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I must say, as you had kind of kicked off with, the inclusion of Japanese instruments.
Oh my god!
Really elevates the score to this as well.
Also, okay. So an exercise in badassery, which is what I was saying, okay? One of the reasons we like this film so much, okay? Let's just deep dive a bit into Douglas's badassery, okay? So we've got, obviously, we know that we've discussed his get up, right? His style and all that kind of stuff, okay? Okay, motorcycle scene to start the movie.
That motorcycle scene is very well done because it really sets up the character.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like basically betting on, beating this other guy in a motorcycle race to pay off his alimony. He tells you everything you need to know about the guy. And he's a cop. He's, doing illegal gambling. He's obviously he's a divorcee. We get it. He's like a bit of a bum.
All right.
A bit of a like untrustworthy character.
Okay, second badassery scene. On the plane, extraditing Sato to Osaka. Sato sitting next to him, giving him the kind of what would you call that stare? Not a cold stare. That menacing stare throughout.
Death stare.
The death stare. This stare.
Scary.
I didn't do it.
All right. No.
Okay, and then Douglas, at hour maybe like 17 in this like long haul flight, does one of these. You're right there, pal. And then Garcia comes. What happened, Nick? I don't know, man. I think he bit his lip or something. Right? That is hard.
Do you like that sell?
Very good, very good. That's good sell.
Thank you.
Yeah. You should work for the WWE.
I keep trying.
There's a vacancy open, by the way. Anyway, so that's badassery scene number 2. Okay, badassery scene number 3. Right. Okay.
What?
I gotta say, and there's a spoiler alert here. Okay.
Right.
When the untimely death of Mr. Charlie Vincent, played by Andy Garcia, is upon us, okay, the female lead in this, okay, played by Kate Capshaw, Mrs. Spielberg, by the way.
Oh, that's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Comes to visit him, and she's the nightclub hostess. She comes to visit him and to console him. And it's like 3 o'clock at night. He is inconsolable. He's at Matsuhiro Matsumoto's house.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, he's at her house, sorry. Matsuhiro Matsumoto comes, knocks on his door, and he wants to give him Charlie's box
of belongings.
Possessions,
and
right? Part of Japanese tradition. And this is kind of where the plot kind of like does a schism in the middle. He gives him a box which includes like his passport and his badge and some other important documents. And at the very end, if you know, one thing that you have to remember is that because these 2 New York cops are considered gaijin, as in foreigners, they are unarmed when they come to Japan.
Yeah, they're not allowed to carry around their weapons.
And they can't participate in the investigation as proactive police officers.
Just
they have to serve as observers.
Yeah.
Which is the reason, incidentally, why Garcia's killed, because they're unarmed, right?
Yeah.
They can't defend themselves. So Matsuhiro Matsumoto, in that great scene with Zimmer's score about to like pump onto the, in the backdrop, has only the gun left in the box. Do you remember that? And they kind of like look at the box with the one remaining item left. And Douglas looks at him almost with some ambivalence, uncertainty, but great intensity. And he says to him, I can take anything I want, right? And he says, anything, Nixon. And then he pulls the gun.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it, right? So, Douglas takes a bit of their culture. Masahiro takes a bit of like, I'm going to bend the rules for you. Correct. I've learned a few things.
Yes,
you know what I mean? So breaking down these barriers. It didn't end the Cold War a la Rocky IV, but it did bring the US and Japan closer together. Now, hey, while we're on the subject, don't forget to subscribe. Please do. Subscribe, follow us, and comment. Have you seen Black Rain? What do you think of it? Please let us know. Anyway.
Yes, go on.
Let's talk about some of our favorite scenes.
Okay, fine.
And you know which one my favorite scene is?
I think you should quarterback this.
I think you should kick it off.
Okay.
And I'll give you the Hail Mary.
When they take a little bit of a break
Right.
from investigating, okay, at the midway point of the film,
Absolutely.
Mrs. Douglas and Garcia go into sort of downtown Osaka, okay, to a nightclub.
Yes.
For some downtime.
Right.
Okay.
And obviously with every Japanese nightclub, there's a bit of karaoke.
Correct.
Okay, and Masahiro Masamoto is there as well, right?
Correct.
Why is he
supervising
there?
them?
Oh yes, he's keeping an eye on them.
Chaperoning them.
He's keeping an eye
Right.
on them. Anyway, before you know it, Garcia's got all the Japanese ladies around him. They're having drinks. Kanpai time, yes. Kanpai time, no. Right? Karaoke kicks off. Oh, and by the way, this kind of little scene epitomizes a lot of what we were talking about in terms of Douglas not getting along with, who he's faced with, Garcia trying to bridge the divide,
Correct.
so on and so forth. And actually, they have a bit of a tete-a-tete.
Yes,
Douglas
correct.
and Masahiro.
Yes, exactly.
Moto, yes.
Where they are essentially in a kind of, to some extent in a cliched manner.
I think you should give us the back and forth.
Nixon, I served with your soldiers. You were wise then. Now movies and music is all America's good for. We made the machines. We built the future. We won the peace. And Douglas responds, I'm paraphrasing, and if there was an original idea, you couldn't pull it so far up your ass. Or something like that. And then Garcia, in his typical way, come on, Nicky, what are you doing? There's a chance of fucking my evening? Right?
I mean, it's not Joe Pesci, but yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
That was actually quite Joe Pesci, you're right, yeah.
Anyway, and then the karaoke starts. Douglas leaves because he's got his eye on this female gaijin who's in the nightclub who helps him because she's got the inside track on the yakuza and so on and so forth. And they sing a bit of Ray Charles.
Yeah.
And
see the girl with the red dress on.
Boom, boom.
She can party all night long.
All night. What I say
right now.
Anyway,
baby, what I say.
It's a great scene.
Say, baby, do that thing.
Anyway, Jesus. If you've seen it, you know what we're talking about.
It's a shame X Factor's not still on TV.
Anyway,
actually, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. X Factor.
Yeah. Subscribe, please. Yeah,
please.
okay.
Anyway, so yes, great scene.
That's a great scene.
Obviously, the decapitation scene, which we spoiled, also an amazing scene. Douglas by that fence. Yeah, amazing.
Charlie!
Yes. And
okay, hold on. Another great scene, by the way, in the steel factory, that foundry.
Tell us about
where Douglas has managed to track down Sato.
Yes.
And thinks he's closing in on him with Matsuhiro Matsumoto, right? And there's a meeting among the Oyabuns, like who are negotiating the kind of the counterfeit business proposal, counterfeit built business proposal. And Douglas is closing in, and there's this big chase. And at one point, Sato, this is actually the only time that he speaks in English. You actually don't realize that he can speak English.
Right, yeah.
But he taunts him and he says, "Here I am, Nick, almost as close as when you let Charlie die." Great scene, by the way.
Great scene.
Like heightens.
I mean, listen,
Douglas's need for revenge.
All of it looks so cool.
Oh, so cool.
That it's hard to even kind of pick out great scenes. All of it is actually, the whole film is one great scene.
For sure. And then the other great scene is their rogue operation to hunt Sato down gets kind of capsized. And the authorities find out and shut it down and send Douglas back on a plane to New York, disgraced. Mm-hmm. He obviously escapes from the plane. In what was, it seemed, I always found that so interesting in all these like 80s films.
Yeah.
How easy it is after a plane is like about to board. How easy it is to get up off your seat. Go into the drinks cabinet. It's like that kind of drinks cabinet.
Oh, and come out the bottom.
You can just fit into this drinks cabinet like it's yay high.
Yeah.
You come out the bottom and you're on the landing gear, and it's just unbelievable. I mean, Schwarzenegger did it in Commando, and Douglas does it here, right? And that scene when Douglas brokers or tries to broker that kind of that peace meeting with Sugai, who's the head Oyabun, okay, who is at war with Sato. That's one thing that Douglas doesn't realize at the start. You know, at the start of this when you think of the genesis of this movie, that original scene in the Italian eatery, you don't realize that kind of, it's a microcosm for and actually like a war that's going on amongst like 12 million Japanese people, which is what Kate Capshaw tells him. You know, she says to him, like, you know, you don't even know what this is about. This is not about some little murder in like downtown Manhattan. There's a war going on between these two massive oyabuns, okay? And he says to her, how many people know about this? And she says, including you and me. He's like, yeah, 11 million. So he managed to broker a deal with Sugai-san.
By the way, the dialogue, sorry, I know I keep interrupting, but throughout, we need to look at who wrote the film. We'll tell you in a second. But the dialogue throughout is amazing. It's so sharp. It's so quick. It moves the plot along so well. Yeah. As well. And so witty. With just that one line as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that meeting when he meets with... And I just love that. And, you know... You gotta love Japanese culture, right? I mean,
I do.
All the honor, the integrity, and
arigato,
and the, you know, the code, the omertas, all that. When he meets with Sugai and he tries to understand what exactly this counterfeit war is about. Obviously, he wants him to, you know, he wants Sugai to use him as a pawn to kill Sato. And he says to him, I'm the solution of your problems. I'm nothing but a worthless gaijin. Everyone knows he killed my partner. Yes, and right in front of you. He may as well be an American. That's great dialogue. And I love the fact that Sugai is explaining to him that his life of crime doesn't stem from Western-style materialistic greed, but rather revenge and payback for the bombs that dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that this counterfeit war is designed to presumably help cripple the American economy, because they're kind of they're printing US dollar bills. That's really kind of rich, sharp dialogue.
Yeah. All of it. I mean, all of these, like, you know, it's sort of like peel away the onion.
Yeah, sure.
And you get to the core, and every layer is like, you know, takes you in deeper, and every layer is just as fascinating as the one before it.
Sure. And that's when he drops that line, which I said at the beginning. When the B-29 bomber came, we were underground for 3 days. When I came out, me and my family came out, there was heat, and that the heat brought rain. Black rain.
Black rain. Yeah.
You made the rain black. You created Sato and the millions like him.
So good. That's when DiCaprio goes up. That's the title of the film.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, now, final shootout scene.
Yeah.
In those kind of, the outskirts, presumably, of Osaka, in those Japanese fields, right?
The rice fields.
Rice fields. They're very, very, very Ridley Scott looking.
So good.
It's so good. Like, it's obviously during the daytime, but it still looks sort of, kind of, it's dark, it's cloudy, it's foggy.
Yeah.
And it's just shot very kind of Ridley Scott-like. And actually, there's a lot of, like, throwbacks to Blade Runner.
And how old is, like, 30 years old, this film?
89, so, God, something 35 like years old.
It still looks so, like, up-to-date and so of, like, it's like, you know, it's, like, timeless.
Yeah.
It's not dated in any way.
No.
I mean, apart from the mullet. Anyway, go ahead.
Not really, not that dated.
Yeah.
Okay. Redemption. The redemption scene at the end. Okay. Now, how does, if you remember how the kind of the final, like, mano a mano fight between Douglas and Sato takes place on the motorcycles.
Yeah.
Which is, again, a throwback to the opening scene. We know that Douglas is obviously quite an accomplished motorcyclist, right? And he has the opportunity at the end to kind of impale him on the tire that's still kind of turning, and thinks about it, and presumably he's channeling Charlie's death in his head. The next scene, you see this long kind of hallway of police officers working at their desks. The doors slam open, right? You don't know what's to come. Sato's thrown through, and you've got Douglas and Matsuhiro Matsumoto escorting him through this kind of long kind of corridor to the chief of police, who has basically at that point has suspended Matsuhiro Matsumoto for breaking rank, and believed Douglas was actually on a plane back to New York. And they
Tears and chills.
And all of a sudden the chief of police turns around and he's this look of like shock and he's stunned at what's happened and no words are said. It's just all score, all Zimmer score. And then the next scene they're given these kind of medals as commendation and congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then the goodbye.
Now the goodbye and what do you want the goodbye and the plates? Do you remember the plates?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. That's a great
the counterfeit plates.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
from Iran apparently.
It explains a lot. Yeah.
Go on.
So they're having their goodbyes.
Yeah.
Douglas and Takakura.
Yeah.
At the airport, and they're kind of exchanging gifts for their children, their families, and Matsuhiro Matsumoto says to him, "Nick-san, they never did find the plate, okay, which is worth millions and millions." And you have to remember that Douglas's character is from the outset, is a cop who's taken bribes, who's under investigation of internal affairs, who has money problems, okay? And Douglas says to him, well, some lucky bastard is going to be set for life. And Matsuhiro says, don't think I understand. He's like, well, if you got the plates, all your problems are solved, right? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And then they're about to shake, take care, and he's like, no, Nick-san, real friends do this. Right? That's great. Okay.
But she learned from Garcia or no?
No, it didn't.
Okay, fine.
I think he learned it from, I think it's Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee in Shot in Little Tokyo. Actually, that came out 2 or 3 years later.
Absolutely.
Actually. Okay. And then, as Douglas is walking through the terminal and past the metal detectors and past customs, Matsuhiro opens the present.
Oh, yeah.
He sees a shirt, and I remember he looks at it, he's like, oh, not bad. Then underneath the shirt, 2 shiny plates. So, and then he turns up, Nick-san! And he's like, and he gives him this look. Like that. And Douglas is like, and then Greg Allman's incredible ballad. I have lived my life my way. For tonight and for today, I'll be holding
Sing us out.
on.
Thanks for watching.
When I stand alone.
That was Black Rain.
I don't have no memories.
If you liked, then like.
I'll be holding
If you
on.
didn't like, then don't like.
Oh, by the way,
comment, subscribe. Go ahead.
Can I just an addendum, by the way?
Yeah.
Because, I know you and I both love another film that was kind of heavy on the US-Japanese cultural coming together and divide at the same time, which was 1993's Rising Sun.
Rising Sun.
Starring Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
Okay, which
Can you play us out with
I will do
Sean
this.
Connery's
Yes,
Japanese rant?
and I'm going to apologize to all my Japanese
Thank
subscribers because I don't actually speak Japanese, but I'm just going to tell them. The names of your colleagues over there. Now look at me. Be the
Japanese businessman.
Yes, who's afraid. The names of your businessman. Yeah, and don't you fuck with me.
There you have it.
Like,
Thank you very much.
space, like, but of course, Captain.
Very good.
That was my one-man Sean Connery stand-up.
3, 2, 1, get ready.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Pon podcast.
Yeah. Almost. It's all right.